Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining this IFA Global Cafe. My name is Andra Stenku, Program Manager with the International Federation on Aging, and I'll briefly review housekeeping. We begin this virtual cafe with opening remarks, followed by a moderated question and answer session. Please use the chat function along the bottom of your screen to indicate that you have a question, and you're also welcome to share any resources, websites there as well. A reminder, this virtual cafe is recorded, and the video recording and any resources shared will be made available on the IFA's website, and you will receive a follow-up email with these resources along with an invitation to the next virtual cafe in the series. And now it is my great pleasure to pass the floor to my colleague, Ms. Anushay Khan.
Thank you, Andra. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us. I'm very happy to be moderating today's session on disrupting ageism through art and creativity. Ageism is prevalent in our society in health, media, employment, education, all of which impact the well-being of older people. Together with international leaders, the IFA has been working diligently to combat ageism. We believe that a world without ageism is one where people of all ages, including older people, are able to fulfill their capability and their capacity. Combating ageism requires a global movement to transform attitudes and actions across generations. With that being said, it is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Jordan Evans. Jordan Evans is the co-founder of Art Against Ageism. He's a graduate of the Erickson School of Aging Studies at UMBC. He's a passionate advocate for older people and anti-ageism activist. He seeks to change perceptions and stereotypes around older adults. His work focuses on bridging gaps in the older people living space by bringing together younger and older generations in conversation as a workforce development solution. Thank you, Jordan, for joining us today, and the floor is now yours.
Hello, everyone. Just give me a second while I get myself situated. All right. So today we'll be discussing leveraging the power of art and activism to combat ageism. So let's jump into it. So as was mentioned, and why we are all here today is on how powerful the prejudice of ageism is. So I'm not going to spend too much time discussing what is ageism, as we are all here for the reason to discuss it. But I do want to discuss this one thing, and I kind of wanted to, in hindsight, I was thinking maybe I should entitle this "Fighting Fire with Fire," but that will be the overall theme, is fighting fire with fire. Ageism spreads throughout our society and throughout societies across the world through media. It is the way that, the fashion and beauty industry has attacked our own self-image. When you see makeup ads and things like that are, selling anti-wrinkle, they put up a picture of an older person with wrinkles and lines in their face, and then almost dramatically and magically even, young models with no lines on their face that are supposed to be them crash through that image of that wrinkled person, and they sell their creams as if they are magic youth serums that will, and some of them do call them youth serums, and they put negative ideas around aging and having wrinkles, and it is through media and affect. And as a way to combat those things is by fighting fire with fire. So that is what we're discussing today, is really what I'll be really digging deep in, is how do we fight that fire with fire, and what does that look like? So here's an example of our own internal thoughts around our own internal aging and how the media and other sources play into that and exploit that. This was a ad that ran through the New York City subway, and it was through Postmates, and it says, when you want a whole cake to yourself because you're turning 30, which is basically 50, which is basically dead, dessert, we get it. Everyone has we've all seen through movies and TV shows this idea that when you're turning 30, you have this epiphany that you're almost dead, and how you're afraid of your own aging, and Postmates is exploiting that and playing into that and saying, oh, when you're having that internal thought or crisis and this existential crisis that you're having, feel free to give us a call and we'll help you feed your own fears. After a lot of pushback, this was eventually taken down, thank goodness. But this is how the media does it. And this is a little bit more explicit, but it's subtle in a lot of other ways. This is a quote allegedly by the famous Broadway film actor Harvey Fierstein. And it says, art has the power to transform, to illuminate, to educate, inspire, and to motivate. And that is in positive ways and in negative. So let's talk about how we can use the power of art for fighting ageism. So the way that we fight ageism at Art Against Ageism is through artistic activism. And artistic activism is the marrying of art and action. And it is the dynamic practice of combining the creative powers of art to move us emotionally. And with the strategic planning of activism necessary to bring out change, using the affective power of art and the effective power of activism to create an affective effect that will change our minds. Now, this is not a new practice. It's actually been done throughout history, and here are some examples. So the first is Keith Haring's Silence Equals Death, which was done during the AIDS epidemic in 1990. And he made these chalk drawings in subway stations and became famous for his public murals. The second is during the Civil Rights Movement, an artist by the name of Gordon Parks was an African-American artist for Life magazine, and he made the conscious decision to depict the Civil Rights Movement in color, which was expensive and a very big thing at the time. And the reason that he did it was to make the movement personal. Seeing it in color as opposed to black and white makes it more recent and in your face, and puts emotion and realness behind the characters in the photo. And then lastly is Jean Carlo's work during the labor movement. He's a French poster designer who made an enormous contribution to commercial art during World War II. And it isn't something old, it's something currently being done. The first is Banksy's Love in the Air. And what I want everyone to look at these and see is how it affects you emotionally and the affective feelings that you feel, or the affective change of the effect that it has on you. And then the deeper part is the effective changing of your thoughts and how it reasons with you. It is art that is definitely reasoning. Banksy's Love in the Air shows a man, it depicts a man holding a bouquet of flowers and throwing it as if he was holding I think it's called a Molotov cocktail, or as if they were to hold a bomb, or something that is, used as a way to, cause harm to others. But Banksy in this takes that bomb or whatever it would be that he's throwing, and puts in flowers. And it lets you look and say, huh. And that is what it's meant to do. That is what artistic activism is meant to do, is make you look at it and say, huh. So Banksy is an anonymous street artist or graffiti artist that does work all around the world, and you can Google Banksy, and there's many Banksys all around the world. The next is Lisa Woolgrim, and I did my best to pronounce her last name as best as I could, but then I tried my best, so I really can't. She is an artist, a Korean-Swedish artist, and her work goes to address the hostility towards Asians across the world during the COVID-19 global pandemic. And this depicts a young woman saying, "I am not a virus." And those, during the global pandemic, people were taking their frustrations out on COVID and taking them out on individuals that were Asian, because of different rhetoric from people all across the globe on the origin of COVID. And again, it makes you say, huh, I am not a virus. That is powerful words. And then lastly is the Guerrilla Girls. The Guerrilla Girls is another anonymous art activist. This is an anonymous art activist group who uses disruptive headlines and outrageous visuals to expose gender and ethnic bias and corruption in art, film, politics, and pop culture. This picture depicts female artists behind bars, and they believe that they believe in an intersectional feminism that fights for human rights for all humans and all people. So it's not new, it's not revolutionary. Artistic activism is something that most movements use, and is being done in many societies across the world for ageism as well. So this is JR. JR has the largest art gallery in the world. He is the founder of a project called the Inside Out Project, which is something that we are very passionate about, something we're very eager to do with someone. The Inside Out Project actually uses wheat paste and puts up these large blown up pictures on the side of walls, and it's meant to humanize. He has a project that was done in Israel, and what he does is, on the other side of the wall of Pakistan, he has Israeli cab drivers on the Pakistan side, and on the other side, he has Pakistani taxi drivers. And he put this on the wall, and a bunch of people actually went up to him and asked the question of, why are you doing this? Who are those people? And because you really couldn't tell. And that's the thing that he was pointing out, is that you can't tell what someone's nationality is by looking at them. He also has another work on the border of the United States and Mexico, and it's on the Mexico side of the border wall, and it's portraying a big blown up picture of a child looking over the wall. And this child has a hopeful look on their face, and it is so moving when you see it. And that is the goal of it, is to use this, what he calls pervasive art, to change minds. So this is Alexandra Bell. Alexandra Bell did a project. She earned her master's in journalism at Columbia University, and she has been doing a series of counter narratives, changing the way that information is shaped and the narratives that reporting forms in these reportings of different racial issues in the United States. So what she does is she rewrites racist headlines, and it is really powerful stuff. I just want to let you take a look at it. So this is actually a project around ageism that was done.
Hi. Would you like to try the world's first aging cream?
I'm not interested in that.
It will actually make you look older.
Why would I want to look older?
Don't you want to look older?
No. No?
It will help you in the workplace to feel more confident.
Don't worry
Be more
about
reliable.
confidence. I am confident.
It'll help you with pre-presentation panic.
Okay. Then it's starting towards maybe a little bit more interested.
Do you want to try it?
Maybe I'll try.
Do you want to try it? Yeah.
Young, but...
What do you think?
I don't feel any different.
Can I let you in on a little bit of a secret? Image, our aging cream, doesn't actually exist, but ageism towards older workers does. Did you know that 41% of older adult Canadians report feeling ignored? That's ageism. Unmask the whole story at torontoforall.ca/ageism.
So this is a fascinating project, because and what I love about this video is people blatantly say, no, I don't want to look older. No, I don't want to be older. And it really hits me, because if you are older, as many people are, you look at that and you're like, wow, is that how you feel about me? This is an awesome project, and you can see the conflicting ideas around aging cream. Whereas most people are selling anti-aging cream, this goes to exploit that that idea that you would want to anti-age. So JR, who is the who did the Inside Out project, has published 2 positive children's books around wrinkles and how old am I, and we will send out the slides, so you can definitely take a look at these books and try and get them for someone younger in your life. And here's another project by the Inside Out project. And this was done in Los Angeles in 2011. So to mark World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, the Barwon Elder Abuse Primary Prevention Network has partnered with the city of Greater Geelong to launch the Street Face See Me, Respect Me campaign. So this Street Face campaign is aimed at challenging age discrimination, and one of the key drivers, which is one of the key drivers of elder abuse. And an artist and activist in the fight against ageism that we very much love at Art Against Ageism is Heidi Wagner. And she has a project by the name of the Passions Project. And what she does is she takes portraits of older adults engaging in their passions. And it's definitely a way to redefine aging and eradicate ageism. So we'll be going through other activists in the fight against ageism and almost like a resource sharing in the next few slides. Another one that we very much love is F Their Aging Standards, which is an art dispensary with a mission to inspire women 50 and older through drawings, writings, and statements. The site sells bags, hats, and t-shirts, and it's very active on social media with statements and messages posting weekly. So Changing the Narrative is a group that is in Colorado, and they started this anti-aging birthday cards campaign, which was getting people to submit birthday cards that they saw with that are ageist, and then working to recreate and change that narrative and create cards that were not ageist and that actually celebrated aging and showed positive aging. Jan Golden actually was inspired to start a stationery business that tackles ageism, Age Friendly Vibes. You can look at them at Age Friendly Vibes on their social. Jan actually sells birthday cards that celebrate aging and do positive aging. And I encourage everyone to do this project, to go in any store, grocery, and look at the birthday card section and point out how many ageist birthday cards you can find. There are many, over the hump. It's all downhill from now. If you've ever received an ageist birthday card, it may seem fun initially, and the ideas aren't, anything graphic or mean or aggressive, but like I said earlier, what attacks your internal views on your own aging is not going to be mean or aggressive, or it'll be funny. It'll be something that you say, haha, that is funny. And then later on, when you're looking at yourself, you say, well, it is all downhill from now. Or, and one thing I always point out is ageism doesn't just affect older people, it affects younger people as well. I, at the age of 25, am constantly looking at myself and saying, should I be speaking right now? Even though I do have valid ideas and I am an expert in this, should I be speaking? Am I old enough to say this? Am I old enough to feel this? And those are the things that we at Art Against Ageism try to attack. So who are we and what is Art Against Ageism and why am I here? So I am the co-founder of Art Against Ageism. My co-founder Meg and I started this actually in 2020, so we are fairly new. We started this actually out of what both of us work in the field of aging and senior living. And we were watching as COVID was in its worst part, and how our societies treated older adults by warehousing them and not valuing their lives, and how people were just saying, I don't care about older people. I'm going to go outside with no mask. I don't really care. And we just looked at each other and said, we have to do something. If the people that are paid and that have spent their lives to protect older adults don't care, why would anyone else? And so we actually work throughout. Right now, we are predominantly working with senior living, but we are looking to branch out to other communities, intergenerational communities, college campuses. And so what we are is an alliance of creatives, artists, and activists committed to identifying, amplifying, and creating artistic endeavors that confront and address damaging stereotypes about age and aging. So we are a collective. We are an alliance, and in that alliance, we are always looking for new artists and activists who would like to join us in creating artistic endeavors, but we also work to identify and amplify works that our colleagues are doing, and that if you have a project that you're working on that you'd like us to amplify with our own social media, to also work on. We love collaborating with things. We would love to help. So here are some of the projects that we're working on and some of the things that we're happy to share with. First is our Fix It campaign, which will be launching next week on the 28th. So my co-founder Meg has a career in publishing and in reporting and communications and marketing. And just like the project that we saw earlier, she has been going in and taking her editor's pen to many articles around aging. This is the Sarah Jessica Parker one's my favorite. It's funny how I see these articles all the time, and I don't take a second thought at saying 15 style mistakes that make you look older. Yep, I just keep scrolling and I see it, and yeah, that's something that is there. Sarah Jessica Parker wore the spring dress women over 50 will love. So we are actually doing a Fix It campaign challenging other people to go into the different media spaces of their everyday life and find these subliminal ageist messaging and take your editor's pen to them and fix it. And we'll be partnering with the Changing the Narrative Colorado and Age Friendly Vibes to create a contest that asks you to fix some headlines. So a pilot project that we're working on, and this is something that actually we partnered with a nursing home in Baltimore by the name of Keswick, and we have been doing a Age is Living tree. And so this tree asks 3 questions. Have you ever been judged by your age? In what way? What does getting older or being older mean to you? And what do you like about being your age? And we created these questions and have been asking people to write the answer to the question on a note and put it on the tree. It was interesting. Putting this together was something it gave me insight into things in senior living that I knew about, but I had never really experienced. One of the things that we had to do was we had to spray all of the tags with flame retardant spray, because it's going to be in a tree, and codes and things, they had to make sure that it wouldn't catch on fire. We installed it in different parts of the community and encouraged people across the organization, as well as workers and residents, as well as family members and people outside of the community, in the general community, to go online and in person and put tags on the tree. The second step of our pilot program with Keswick is we got a grant. We were awarded a grant from the state of Maryland for its new Creative Aging Grant Program. And what this means is, for us, is we are able to partner with a teaching artist who is putting on a workshop for older adults through Keswick on playmaking and storytelling through the use of prompts that raise awareness to ageism and to promote age positivity. And we will be showing the work that we're getting from this project, which is currently in progress. We are doing it every Monday at Keswick. And when we close up and start to collect the product of what this project has brought about, we will be sharing it on our social. We are really excited about this. This is something that's really exciting for me. I love storytelling. Storytelling, I feel like, is like one of the best art forms, especially when combating ageism, because aging is living, and living is a story. living is all of our stories. And if we can share those stories and share the similarities in them, you really start to see how we aren't all that different, no matter what stage of aging we are in. So what can you do to create art that changes perceptions in aging? Here are a bunch of resources that you can look at. There are books on artistic activism from folks at the Center for Artistic Activism, and that is a huge resource, the Center for Artistic Activism, and that is going to be C4AA. They are some great people that have a lot of knowledge around how to use artistic activism to fight whatever ism or prejudice or discrimination you are trying to fight. So that is a great resource. And as I said, these slides will be shared so you can take a look at some of these books. And then there's also Ashton Applewhite's This Chair Rocks, which is a manifesto against ageism. And you can also become a creative catalyst for change. So engage your community. You are already elder advocates, and this is what you do day in and day out. We are asking you to take your work a step further by raising awareness against ageism and promoting age positivities within your communities, whether it be 4 walls or within a county line. You can become an elder advocate, and you could also partner with us. We are constantly looking for partners with other projects, other communities, and also looking for ideas on things that we are looking to do with different communities. So feel free to follow us on social. Drop your email to me. I have my email will be in the chat. And I will be sharing it after everything. So follow us on social, email me if there's a project or community that you'd like us to work with. Again, we are looking to do this Inside Out project somewhere, and we are really excited about that. We are on LinkedIn, we are on Instagram, we are on Facebook, and you can also check us out at artagainstageism.org. And you can also find out about Jan, who is something who is a project we're very excited about. We will be presenting with them soon. So you can find out more about them at agefriendlyvibes.com. So thank you so much for that and for watching. And I'll turn it over back to you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for the very informative and very thought-provoking presentation. I do invite everyone to please write your questions in the chat, and then I'll call on you to ask her question. But I'd also like to say that, coming back to the quote that you mentioned in the beginning, that art has the power to transform, to illuminate, educate, inspire, and motivate. And as we heard throughout your presentation and the examples mentioned, it truly does. And through your presentation, it was great not only learning about artistic activism, but also how it's being applied, including in changing people's attitudes about ageism. So I'm sure this will make for a great discussion today. I see that we do have one question, and Shmuel, if you can please unmute yourself and go ahead with your question.
Yeah, you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I want first thank you on your interesting lecture, and I want to ask you a question. How, according to you, and today in period of Corona and post-Corona, this very actual subject, how digital forms of creativity and digital forms of art can support disruption, ageism, and improvement well-being of older people.
I think, so you're breaking up a little bit, but I'm pretty sure your question was about digital art forms to combat ageism and changing okay, so digital art forms, it still has the affective effect. It is still, most of the things that I showed today were digital. In-person art is interactive, and it does take that extra step where it is, it affects all of the senses. So in touch, if you're doing a storytelling, if you're doing something in person, smell, and all of those things do have that effect. But digital art, so actually all of the things that we've been doing because of COVID a lot of it has been digital, and it still has the same effect. It does lose a little bit, but it is still impactful.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I also see another question in the chat. Sorry if I mispronounce your name, but it's from Goronda. If you'd like to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay. Jordan, thank you very much for telling us how art can be included to do something against ageism. I would like to ask you whether have you ever included students, teachers as community members to do something against ageism through art?
Working with teachers and students.
Yes, teachers and students.
So that is not something that we've directly thought, like a people group that we've directly thought about working with, although the dynamic often between teachers and students, I've actually never thought about it, is often based in ageism, because you assume that someone who's older than you, is an expert, whether or not they actually have any credentials that would show you otherwise. We often play with that power dynamic in teachers and students, and it is, it is pervasive in even our own assumptions of what a student is. Like most people, there's a term, college age students, and anyone can be a college age student. So that is not something that we've directly looked at, but I would like to play on that and play on our assumptions around what is a professor and what's a student and what does that look like. So that is actually not something we've looked at, but thank you. Also, another thing I want to mention, someone brought this to my attention. I said Pakistan, I meant to say Palestine. So sorry for that. That is two different places, and I am aware of that. Yeah, it was Palestine and Israel. If you want to look at more about that, look at Inside Out and look at their Palestine and Israel project. Thank you for your question.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I encourage everybody again to please write your questions in the chat if you have any. I see a comment from Mark regarding one of the resources you shared. So maybe if you'd like to unmute yourself and speak a little bit about that, or if you have any questions.
No, I just wanted to share that resource. And that's it. Okay,
perfect. Sounds good. So maybe I can also go ahead because I also have a question for you. So, as we know, we are in the decade of healthy aging, and one of the priorities that they mention in order to foster healthy aging, that there's this shift that's required, not only in the actions that we take, but also in how we think about age and how we think about aging. And then one of the 4 action areas of the decade is combating ageism. So I know you spoke a little bit about, increasing understanding of what ageism is and why it matters, and also the importance of increasing awareness. It would be interesting maybe to also hear your thoughts on how, based on the knowledge and the information that you've gained so far, what do you think is the best course of action, or what are some strategies that you think are still needed to move this work forward in the area of artistic activism?
So healthy aging in itself is something that I try not to use the term. It is whenever I hear someone say healthy aging, and this is not addressed at you, but like constantly I hear people say healthy aging, positive views on aging is discussing healthy aging. And I then think of AARP pictures of, and this is not against AARP, but again, but really of, you know, even senior living pictures. I see senior living ads of young, healthy looking older adults that are running around and doing things that don't look like the average experience of aging. And healthy aging has become this term to use to describe youthful aging. And one of the things, the biggest things to combat ageism with and creating positive views of healthy aging is to disrupt and deconstruct what is positive aging, or what is healthy aging. I'm sorry, someone is putting up a picture and I wanted to see that. So what is healthy aging? And really redefining that should be a work that all of us are doing now in order to really change people's own perceptions around their experience of aging. So I challenge you to look at yourself and say, am I healthy aging? And immediately give yourself the answer yes, because if you're aging, then you're healthy aging. If you're unhealthily aging, then you're dying.
That's a very interesting perspective to share. So thank you for that. I'm sure everyone here has their thoughts about that and the term, but I guess just like giving older people the opportunity to fulfill and live up to their best potential is what we're referring to. But
yeah,
would welcome more questions. And then I guess also like one more question from my side is, you know, we've at the IFA and just in general with like organizations, we've been having discussions about, you know, collaborating and concerted action in order to create a world for, you know, where we tackle ageism and we can move forward in a positive manner. So, you know, how important would you say is collaboration across sectors in combating ageism? And what do you think are important or essential ingredients for success in terms of also like moving forward actions and policies and just the work that you've mentioned?
Collaboration is important to any ism that you are fighting. Racism would not have, we wouldn't be able to fight racism the way that we have in the years that we have without collaboration across races and across ages. It takes all of us to change the minds of one. And I've said to Meg often, this movement and what the art that we do, as well as the communities that we touch, have to be intergenerational. Because the thing that has created ageism in itself is the segregation of ages. Having that segregation has created these internal views and has allowed these internal views to fester. So it has to be something done across ages in order for us to share our stories and to look at each other and say, you're not that different, and you're not. Aging is a process that does not have different stages. You don't turn an age one day and go, oh, I'm old. Or you don't wake up and say, well, I'm young, and then the next day you're not. Aging is a process, and aging is it does not have these stages of segregation. So in order to have that, it has to be collaborative, and that's it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I see that your hand is raised, so your question.
Thanks, Anusha, and thank you, Jordan, for a really thought-provoking presentation. As Anusha mentioned, it really raised some of the things that we work around with respect to intersections of various different kind of aspects of individuals. And oftentimes in our work at IFA, we see that the narrative around older people doesn't really reflect the, I like the word heterogeneity. So it's, I'm curious if you see, within your work and what you're exposed to, are there certain, I guess, intersections that are kind of gaining momentum and that really showcase that diversity of older adults? And are there areas that really need to be further emphasized, or are there gaps in kind of creating that link? And also just a comment, just going back to the decade of healthy aging, there's the digital platform, which is an opportunity to share these kinds of initiatives. So I'll put that in the chat, but it's really interesting to see what other people and organizations around the world are doing to combat ageism. And I think a lot of these, activism kind of initiatives are really important to share. So over to you.
There are gaps. One of the biggest gaps, and this is one of the things that I've discussed on with other activists against ageism, is the lack of what you said, intersectionality. When we're often discussing ageism, or even I was telling Anusha, when I'm on panels, I very rarely see people that look like me. I very rarely see people of color and people of color age. It is not just everyone ages. And I also don't see people who are younger. And if we're talking about ageism and combating ageism, why would we not include people of all ages? So for one, we don't discuss enough, and we don't highlight enough the intersectionality and of aging, and how important those things are on the way that we age, and how they all create that beautiful thing that is us. And that is really how you combat any ism, is you highlight our differences in a positive view and celebrate our differences. And you really start to then appreciate diversity, because then you appreciate the differences and the different characters that it brings.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We are getting close to the end of the hour, so I will take one last question. I see there's a question from Dana Bradley in the chat. So if you'd like to please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hey, good morning, everyone from Baltimore. Good morning, Jordan. Great job. I'm so proud of you. I'm wondering, from your perspective, how, sort of what advice, how do you capture the attention of, and I'm thinking of young professionals, and, particularly those that are, so many that I come in contact with that are thinking about career choices, that they might see something in the field of aging, maybe not, they again, working in aging is sort of invisible to so many people. What advice would you give to them?
What advice would I give? This is an interesting question, as I'm often getting questions from older people as well as younger people on how do I combat ageism in my job search, because there are prejudices against someone who is younger and older of you don't have the experience or you are too old. And the best way, and this is, I really hate that this is a cliche, but it is true, is getting to talk to someone. I mean, networking is really important in anything, and it is something that is the best way to, it's storytelling. I mean, networking is truly storytelling, and no one has ever said that, but it is. It's telling your story, and it's getting a chance to someone to see you and not just see you with their own prejudices and stereotypes, but see you from you and what you bring to the table, and hearing you speak and hearing that diversity that you can bring. So the way to get into aging, especially as aging and the industry of aging is an industry that is looking to be more diverse and is looking to bring in fresher ideas, as well as create a diversity in age as well as race and sex, is meet people, network. And I really wish there was a better advice to give anyone other than like network, because life is about who you know and not about what you know, and that is unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, go to industry things, go to your local senior center or aging aging center or aging community, and talk to someone, meet someone, ask who they know, say that, you know, be fully, and this is how I got into this industry, is be fully transparent about what your intentions are and what you want to out of your life, and say, I want to do this. And usually someone will say, huh, I want to see you do that. And we'll put you in the place to do so.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jordan, for your insights and the very valuable discussion. And thank you everyone for your participation. I just want to take a few seconds to introduce next week's Global Cafe, and then I will come back to Jordan for the takeaway messages. So next week, we are in conversation with experts, including Ms. Jane Testel and Ms. Jane Armstrong, on person-centered care and the Seniors Outdoor Activation Toolkit. So looking forward to having all of you join us next week as well. And Jordan, now back to you for some of your key takeaway messages.
My key takeaway, and I said this earlier, is fight fire with fire. I want everyone to hopefully get out of this that ageism is all around us, not to become paranoid and looking for ageism around the corner, but to instead, I want you to be aware and to point out where there is ageism around you. Go to the grocery store and walk past the birthday card section and see the ageist birthday cards, and that is the first step in just waking anyone up. Is if you see someone looking at something, say, hey, you know that's ageist. And if they don't engage you, that is fine. I'm not saying start a fight inside of the grocery store, but you know, if they say, well, why would you say that? And say, well, you can see that it's creating a negative view on aging, and it is it's creating, you know, a culture of ageism. And take that opportunity as a point to educate others. Become an advocate in your own community and fight fire with fire. Don't, you know, sit-ins, petitions, and protests are effective, but they're not effective. They don't change the heart. But if you are a creative, and I truly do believe that everyone has a creative inside of them, touch the heart. Change the emotion, use the emotion, and even just storytelling. You can always tell your story, and your story is a powerful thing. So fight fire with fire. They are using it, so why don't you use it too? And that is my key takeaway, is just, you know, become an advocate for aging, and you become an artistic activist in your own community. And if you don't know how to do that and you need help with that, feel free to reach out to us. We are an alliance and we are in a collective. So we would love to have you be a part of our collective and be a part of our community.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the messages and also the importance of becoming an advocate for aging. And once again, it was great hearing about the importance and the impact of artistic activism and how creative projects are bringing people together in order to combat ageism. So thank you for your very relevant and very insightful presentation today. And thank you also to everyone for your participation. Apologies if I couldn't get to your question today, but again, we invite you to stay updated by accessing the resources on our website, and today's presentation, as well as Jordan's contact information and all the relevant resources, will also be posted on the website. So please make sure to access those. And before we end the session, I also want to thank Andra Stanku for her role in the Global Cafe today. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining us, and see you next week.